Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I'm back with another big update from the Pokémon Card 151. And look, it's not escaped my attention. I know that I showed you a big update from the Pokémon Card 151 yesterday. I am aware of this. I know that we've also had big updates lately about Paldea Evolved and Pokemon TCG Classic. Yeah, we keep getting big updates about this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So, I know I've done a bunch of videos lately saying, hey, look, there's a big update about this particular thing. But actually, the past few days, we've had a bunch of big updates about a bunch of things. And I'm just being honest with you, this is all pretty gosh darn big stuff. And today, we're talking Charizard EX. Not just Charizard EX. There's a bunch of other stuff we can talk about as well. But I think we do need to talk about the fact that Charizard EX is here. Of course, we do know that in the next main Japanese set, we are going to get a Darkness-type Terror Charizard. Okay, that's not official yet, but it's been listed in various places in Japan, and we are very confident that's happening. Here, we've just got an ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill, Fire-type Charizard EX. And that's kind of a big deal. But first, I want to show you Charmander and Charmeleon. They're kind of cool. And to be fair, the Charmander I did actually show you before. This is a card I have previously shown you. I've not shown you the Charmeleon. Now, I should mention neither of these cards are particularly good, honestly. The Charmander does, well, it's got an attack for a single fire energy that allows you to discard a stadium, which I suppose could work at some point. The Charmeleon, we've got 1 energy 20 or 3 energy 90 and discard 1 energy from this Pokemon. Neither of those are particularly great or relevant. That's not really the point. But I do need to show you these. Because what you might notice here is we've got the same cards, but that reverse holo pattern is back. And it's not a new reverse holo pattern, let's be clear. It is one that we've seen in various A sets towards the latter end of the Sword and Shield era over in Japan. This is, and I mean literally this exact reverse holo pattern. This exact pattern has been used in Japan a bunch. It's awesome. It's back. And assuming this is like every other set that's used this, and it would be weird if it wasn't, frankly, what that means is that we're going to have every card essentially below a holo available with this rather lovely reverse holo pattern. It's awesome. My boy Porygon, assuming it's not a holo, which I don't think it's going to be, that means I'm going to be able to get my Porygon with this lovely reverse holo pattern, and that's going to make me very happy indeed. Also, if you're wondering why the difference in quality between the regular scans and the reverse holo scans, I'm sorry, they're the best ones they've made available. This is the best I can do. These reverse holos being back, kind of a big deal, frankly. They're awesome. I love them, and I'm going to collect them because they're amazing. But what about Charizard EX? Well, we got 330 HP, which is about right for a Stage 2 EX, honestly. And then we've got ourselves a couple of attacks. Starting with single energy, 60 damage, but if this Pokemon has any damage counters on it, the attack does 100 more damage. And look, I like this. I think this is a good attack. I'm just not sure it's a good attack on a Stage 2. Because one thing to point out, like 160 for a single energy sounds really good, and it is, but it's not KOing Pokemon V or basic EXs or anything along those lines. It's basically just getting single prizes. So, like, yeah. If you're hitting for weakness, it's phenomenal. But if you're not hitting for weakness, it's actually not that much damage. Not for getting a Stage 2 out. And that's the other thing we need to mention here. This is a Stage 2. This is not going to be the quickest and easiest Pokemon to get into play. We are talking about a Stage 2 Pokemon here. This is not an ideal situation. And unless you're hitting for weakness, I don't think this is good enough. I'm sorry if that sounds mean here. I really don't think this is good enough unless you're hitting for weakness. If you're hitting for weakness, this is fine. I love that it's a single energy. That makes me very happy. I very much do not love that we're talking about a stage 2 here. I think this is a little bit expensive. Sorry about that. As for the having to have damage on you, yeah, that's actually kind of annoying as well. But then again, if you're playing a fire deck nowadays, you're probably playing Magma Basin. It lets you accelerate fire energy, and you have to damage yourself while you do so. And oh look, fine, we've got the damage on there. So I'm not too worried about the damage. It's kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world, especially with Magma Basin. I'm more worried about the fact that it's a stage 2 and I'm not KOing multi-prize Pokemon. That's my big reservation with this particular attack. As for the other attack here, what we've got is 4 energy, that's a lot, 330, that's a lot, discard 3 energy from this Pokemon, that's a lot. It makes me miss Welder. Because in a world where we had Welder, I feel very differently about this. Because actually what I can do now is attach for turn, and then next turn I can Welder and attach, I've got 4, and then every turn I can Welder 2, attach, we're good to go. Because 330 is a huge amount of damage. But we don't have Welder anymore at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, so what are we doing? Using Magma Basin over and over again? Is that really going to work? In a world with Welder, I would kind of like this, but the reality is we're talking stage 2, 4 energy. I don't think it's going to work. It's one of those cards that kids are going to love because it's got a big 330 number in, the corner in terms of your HP, and it's got a big 330 number in terms of what you do, and it's Charizard and the art is kind of awesome, but I don't think it's terribly realistic. It's going to be good. I'm giving it 3 Wassies because there's potential here, but I think it's just asking too much. What is likely to actually be a much more impactful card is Erika's Invitation. Now, as some people have already pointed out, don't forget we've already seen Giovanni's Charisma here. That's 2 of the 8 gym leaders from Gen 1 from Kanto. So, I'm not saying we are getting all 8 Kanto gym leaders in this set. I don't know one way or t'other. But I am telling you we've seen 2 out of the 8 now. And there seems to be a pattern emerging. And as someone who adores Gen 1, this would make me very happy. So what we've got here is look at your opponent's hand. Put a basic Pokemon you find there onto your opponent's bench. And then switch that Pokemon with your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's not just that you get to play a card from their hand, it is that you get to attack a card, which is currently in their hand, which is awesome. And this is going to remind a bunch of you, as it did me, of Captivating Pokepuff. This was an item card that let you look at your opponent's hand and play as many basic Pokemon as you find. It was good for filling up their bench, taking away their options, etc., etc. But the difference here is you get to attack what you put on the bench, and that's the big thing. To answer a question I'm sure some of you have got, no, you cannot use this if your opponent has a full bench. Because there's nowhere to put it. If you want to use this card, your opponent has to have a bench space remaining. If they don't have a bench space remaining, then unfortunately you're not going to be able to use this card. It just doesn't work. But if you've got Pokemon like Palkia, for instance, that do damage based on a number of bench Pokemon, and you just desperately need one more bench Pokemon from your opponent in order to hit for the amount of damage you want to hit for, this will actually work quite nicely to do that extra damage, which is quite nice. But a lot of the time here, it's for counters. I mean, a classic example that we look at here would be Drapion V against Mew V Max. Because obviously, Drapion is a ridiculous, phenomenal counter to Mew, but if you bench it early, your opponent will gust it and KO it. So you kind of need to keep it in your hand for when your opponent has the Mew V Max down, so that you can then take advantage of it. Well, in theory now, the Mew player would play this, force you to bench the Drapion, and then bring it active and immediately KO it, taking away that option. Now, it's going to be a very complicated interaction, because you can just try and make sure it's not in your hand, or you can fill up your bench and then just drop Drapion when you've not got a full bench, because your opponent just knocks something out with Mew. It's going to be an awkward one, but it is at least a potential here. There is at least something that can be done, and that's kind of amazing, honestly. We like this very much indeed. This is gonna see play. Guarantee this is gonna see play. It is a great card. How much play and which decks does remain to be seen. But if you're ever worried about a particular counter, this is great. If there are particular Pokemon your opponent is playing that you can KO really easily, this is great. This is a card with a lot of potential. I'm giving this 5 Wassies and I don't even care. Yay! Now, an initially similarly sounding item is Snatch Arm. It is an item card. Look at your opponent's hand, choose a Pokemon you find there, and put it at the bottom of their deck. And this is just a tiny bit of disruption. The theory here is quite simple. They have a card in their hand that they want, so you grab it and put it at the bottom of their deck, and now not only do they not have it in their hand anymore, which is annoying, but also it's one that they don't actually have access to for a little while, because it's at the bottom of their deck. And we've got a million cards in the Pokemon TCG that let you shuffle your deck, so it's not going to stay on the bottom for long, but it at least gets rid of it for the time being. It's just, sometimes they're not going to have anything in their hand. It's going to be hard to time this so you get the right Pokemon. And then, you know, if let's say they've got an Ultra Ball, well, it doesn't matter where it is in their deck. And sure, you're forcing them to use an Ultra Ball, whereas they would just have access to it. But I worry with this card that a lot of the time you're going to not be able to get what you want to get with this. And even if you do, there's plenty of ways where your opponent can just get what they wanted to have anyway. This one, I'm giving another 3 Wassies. I'm tentative about this. It's a kind of card I can never really imagine myself putting in a deck, but I do think that other people are going to be able to make something more of this than I would. And the last card, I mean, look at the image. Look at the fact that it says 20 on the card. And you don't need a translation of this if you've played the Pokemon games. It's clearly leftovers. It clearly heals 20 at the end of your turn. Like, obviously, it's a tool card that heals 20 at the end of your turn. It's blatantly leftovers. That is the only thing leftovers could do. It had to be a tool. It had to heal. It had to happen at the end of your turn. So all you needed here was just to see the 20, and you know exactly what this card does. As a side note, I did do all these translations myself, I promise. I have checked with the lovely Antoine Boulet, who is a fantastic person, just to make sure I've not done any sillies, but I haven't. I did all these translations myself, and I'm very proud of myself. But this one was, I mean, look at it. It's blatantly leftovers. And this is a weird kind of card to me, because on the one hand, healing 20 is really not that huge. On the other hand, like if you're seeing in the active, it's not going to make that much difference. What I really like with leftovers are in decks where you retreat to the bench, whack a leftovers on, and just heal turn after turn. I'm not sure healing 20 is enough. We've got way too much gusting to really protect yourself on the bench nowadays. I worry that it's not actually going to work, but I love that we've got leftovers, and I love that it does exactly what it should do. Like, even in terms of the amount of damage you heal, it's a little bit less than a potion, which is obviously what it should be doing. I just love this. I absolutely love this. This makes me very, very happy indeed. If anybody's wondering, no, this is not the first time we've actually had leftovers. Leftovers was printed in Great Encounters. It was very similar, except instead of healing 20 damage, it removed 1 damage counter. Functionally very similar, but this is kind of twice as good as it used to be. But then again, HP is probably more than twice what it used to be, so I don't know, you figure that one out. I'm giving this one between 3 and 4 Wassies, but I don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I am sure there are going to be decks that can make use of this. I am worried that it's just not quite enough healing, and anything you're trying to heal is just going to be gusted and KO'd anyway. That's what I'm worried about. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you think about these cards. I want to know what you think about Charizard EX. I want to know if you love this reverse holo pattern as much as I do. I want to know anything you want to tell me. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, all kinds of fun things. Oh, and get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Edgar Menares, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So, yeah, shout out to them for being awesome and for the support. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.